For the final topic in this worksheet, we are going to talk about solving radical equations with an index other than 2. So far we've only looked at square root equations. Here we're going to look at cube root. We will not go any further than that. We're just going to do square root and cube root. So the process is exactly the same. You want to isolate the radical, raise both sides of the equation to the power that is the same as the index. So in this case, since we're dealing with cube roots, we want to raise both sides of the equation to the third power. So instead of squaring both sides, we're going to cube both sides and then just solve the resulting equation and check your solution. Okay. So again, the process here is identical. Okay. We're just dealing with a cube root. Okay. So we have the cube root of 3x plus 1, and then we have minus 4 equals negative 6. So I want to start by moving this 4. We want to isolate the radical. So we get the cube root of 3x plus 1 equals negative 2. And this is not a red flag like it would be for square roots. When you're dealing with the principal square root of a number, a and b, the radicand and the result have to be non-negative, okay? When you're dealing with a cube root or anything with an odd index, the radicand and the result can be positive or negative. Okay, so the negative here is not an issue. Okay, now we want to cube both sides. So I want to take the cube root of 3x plus 1 and cube it. And then I want to take negative 2 and cube it. Okay, well, when you cube a cube root, they just unravel each other. So you're left with the radicand. And then negative 2 in parentheses cubed is just going to be negative 8. If you need to check that on a calculator, do so. But essentially, you get negative 2 times negative 2, which is 4. And then 4 times negative 2 is negative 8. And now we just solve. So I want to subtract 1 from each side. That'll isolate the 3x. 1 minus 1 is 0, leaving me with just 3x on the left. And then negative 8 minus 1 is negative 9. And then we need to undo the multiplication of 3 and x. Well, 3 divided by 3 is 1, leaving me with just 1x. And the negative 9 divided by 3 is negative 3. And there's nothing, again, when you're dealing with a cube root, things can be positive, they can be negative, okay? You don't have to worry about that negative thing happening here. But we still can check our solution just to stay in practice. So we want to check x equals negative 3. So I've got the cube root of 3 times negative 3 plus 1. And then minus 4 equals negative 6. Well, the cubed root of 3 times negative 3 is negative 9. Negative 9 plus 1 is negative 8. And then again, when you're dealing with a cube root, the radicand can be negative. The result has to be negative 2. So if the radicand is negative, so is the result. The cubed root of negative 8 is just negative 2. If you need to go and check that with a calculator, do so. So we get negative 2 minus 4 equals negative 6. Well, negative 6 really does equal negative 6. So x equals negative 3 is definitely our solution. Okay, let's practice it one more time. So we've got the cube root of 2x plus 3 plus 5 equals 8. So we want to isolate the radical. So I'm going to subtract 5 from both sides. That's going to give me the cube root of 2x plus 3 equals 3. We want to cube both sides. So let's see, remember when you cube a cube root, they just unravel each other. So I'm going to be left with 2x plus 3 equals 27. We want to isolate the 2x, so I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides. Hold tight. I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides. 3 minus 3 is 0, so I get 2x minus 0 is just 2x, and that's going to equal 24. I'm going to divide both sides by 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 1 times x is just x. And then 24 divided by 2 is 12. So let's check our answer. So we're going to check x equals 12. So anywhere we see an x, we plug in a 12. So I've got the cube root of 2 times 12 plus 3 plus 5 equals 8. Well, let's see. Under the radical, 2 times 12 is 24. 24 plus 3 is 27. So we have the cube root of 27 plus 5 equals 8. The cube root of 27 happens to be 3. If you don't believe me, pause the video, check on a calculator, but it is 3. So 3 plus 5, well, that is 8. So everything checks out here, and we can finally say our solution is 12. So remember, for this worksheet, we talked about solving radical equations containing square roots where everything just kind of worked out. We talked about solving radical equations containing square roots where the solution just it didn't happen, and so we had no solution. We talked about solving radical equations containing square roots where we had 2 solutions, one worked, one didn't. And then we talked about solving cube root equations, okay? So make sure you understand the process, isolate the radical, and then undo the radical by raising both sides of the equation to the power that matches the index, and then just solve the resulting equation and check your solutions.